Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Welcome back. I saw a couple of these graphs I'm going to show here in a minute. This is the first one. And then I'm going to show you some graphs concerning welfare, teacher salaries. This one is percent never married among women aged 35 and older from 1890 to 2010. Black women are in the red and white women are in the green and blue. Now look at that, 1890. There was less black women over 35 not married, just about 5%. Look how the graph slowly pretty much doesn't change till about 1960s. Look at the white and the green, went up to 10% right after World War II, 1940s. It went down, the baby boom. And then the Great Society programs of Lyndon Johnson and the Democrats, so they could control minorities and get their vote in forever. Look at that. Look at that, 1960. Look at that, unmarried women aged 35 and older skyrocketed straight up. Yes, the white went up too, but not nearly as much. You can see from 1980, it's just about 5% for whites, and it climbs up to about 8%. In 1980, it looks like it's about 8% for blacks, then shot up 3 times to 25%. That's in 2010. I'm sure it's worse now. Now, here it is for never married men aged 35 and older. We all know that the vast majority of pregnancies are done by men under 35, but just to give you an idea, as you can see, it's a little bit higher for whites than it was blacks, even back in 1890. Then 1940 and World War II, and it just dropped dramatically for both blacks and whites. You look about 1960, here we go again. It crosses over, and yes, non-married black men went way up. It went from about 8-9% to over 25%. Those two graphs are right in line with each other. I'm going to show you some other graphs concerning welfare that I think is exactly what is going on. And they know what they're doing, and they know they're destroying the black nuclear family. In fact, Thomas Sowell did some research in the 1920s and 30s, even with Jim Crow and all the racism in the United States. The black middle class was expanding at a really good percent. Yep, they only can live in certain places and have certain businesses and all of that, but the black nuclear family, middle class and upper middle class blacks, was going up exponentially through the 1950s until the Great Society programs. Now let's take a look at welfare numbers. Welfare is booming according to this. Welfare spending by program type in millions of 2014 dollars. We're going to go with a total means tested welfare spending in the red. Now you look at 1950, there's 56. That's the year I was born. And slowly we get to the early 60s, and it skyrockets straight up. Those other graphs are right in tandem. The graphs of the unmarried women and unmarried men. Around the early 1960s, as the social welfare programs, the Great Society programs, they were called, kicks in, has destroyed. This welfare is incredibly expensive, and it's causing harm. Yes, so there's some people that are disabled. Is there some people scraping by that we should help? Absolutely. I had a convenience store for 22 years in a very low-income neighborhood, very high majority minority area. Many Hispanics and blacks, whites as well, but the majority was Hispanic and black, a lot of poverty. And I represented part of that area in city council in the early 2000s for 8 years. And talking to the people over the 22 years I had my convenience store, I found out all the harm that these welfare programs are actually causing. I remember a conversation once, because you overhear customers talking. They talk freely in front of you like you're not even there. And you can't help it here. There was 3 or 4 young girls. When I say young, I mean teenagers. And they all had children out of wedlock. 3 out of the 4, from what I gathered, quit high school. And the one girl went back to high school after she had her baby. And the other 3 girls were ridiculing her for not getting her own apartment and her own place because she lived with her parents, the one girl. And the other 3 were relentlessly bullying her. Bullying her because, listen, you don't have to listen to your parents anymore. They'll set you up with an apartment. They'll pay for it and all the stuff they were going to get. And this girl wouldn't budge, God bless her. She was brought up different. But she was getting pressure from her peers. You can get out of your parents' house and be your own person. 17, 18 years old. Why not do it? Tell your parents to shove it. It's amazing to me. Now let's look at the total spending on the big 6 welfare programs. The total, if you see in the left graph, the green is 1980. The light blue gray is 2018. That's only 38 years. Not very long. The total, everything all added up together is up 310%. The biggest percent up is EITC. But Medicaid, that's the killer, up 716%. The only thing that's down is cash given to welfare recipients. It's amazing to me. I'll give you an idea. There's SNAP, which used to be called food stamps, up 137%. I had a convenience store in Battle Redemption Center in upstate New York. And here's the way it works. You can use your food stamp SNAP card to buy candy, soda, chips, all those things that really aren't food items at all. And to give you an idea, in New York State, we have a nickel deposit on each bottle. Soda, beer, practically everything, water. And what was happening was, in many instances, you can ask anybody that works in the grocery store in New York State, people would come in when the case water was on sale, use their food stamp card to buy water, go out in the end of the parking lot and stand there and dump all the water out into the parking lot. Come back in and bring the bottles back for the nickel deposit because you can put that money on your food stamp card. And that's $1.20 a case. They would dump 8, 10, 15 cases in the parking lot, dump the water out, bring them back in. They get $8, $9, $10, buy beer or cigarettes with it, and go on their way. That was very, very common. You shouldn't be able to buy candy, soda, and chips anyway, but they do. But here's the other killer. In New York State, soda and candy is a taxable item. If you use a food stamp or a SNAP card, there is no sales tax. And in this county, in Broome County where I live, it's 8%. So that means if you're standing in line at a store and the person in front of you buys $100 worth of Halloween candy and uses a food stamp card, it costs $100. If you're standing behind them and buy the exact same amount of candy but use cash or a credit or debit card, it costs you $108. That shouldn't even, it's unbelievable. It's just the way it is. And if you charge sales tax to food stamp or SNAP recipients, you can be fined and lose the license to use that. That's how ridiculous this is getting. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And here's one that's going to make your hair curl. Average public school teacher salaries. Yes, we should have good teachers, and yes, we should pay them a decent wage. This is through 2020, starting in 1960. Look at that graph. Look at that graph. Now, that salary looks like it's about $65,000 average public school teacher salary. But when people forget one thing, when I was a city councilman, we used to do city budgets. I worked on 8 of them. I was there for 8 years. And we were doing salaries for municipal employees. Everybody from the people that worked in the offices and planning, in the corporation council office, which is a city attorney, all the departments, sanitation, DPW, you name it, the water works, everything. But the benefits to these employees were also in the budget. And we're looking at this number here, $65,000. When I was a city councilman in the early 2000s, I'm sure the percent is higher now. For every dollar spent on a salary for a municipal employee in the early 2000s, you can add another 40 cents, another 40% onto that for benefits. It isn't just medical, which is incredibly expensive. There's prescriptions, there's eye, dental, you name it, the works, workman's compensation, matching Social Security, because the municipality's the employee. In this case, the school district's the employee, and they have to match the Social Security. It's like any other employee. And then there's the pension fund. It's amazing. And the pension fund has billions in every state. I don't think there's a state in the union whose pension fund isn't overflowing. And what happens is a lot of it's based on the stock market. When I was there from 2000 2007, the city that I represented on city council had to pay their share towards the pension fund. And you would get a bill once a year from the state of New York saying, here's all your municipal employees, this is how much they make, based on how the pension fund did, say in the money market funds, they invested in stock market and other companies, and they were doing really well. So the contribution was really low, so you could keep property taxes from being raised. When 2008 came, my first year off of city council, when the stock market took a crap, all of a sudden these huge bills are coming in from New York State, and I'm sure all the rest of the states are no different. They're tied in like insurance companies. When the stock market goes down, your insurance premiums go up. When the stock market goes down, your contributions to the pension fund. So you're looking at a teacher, we'll say 65,000 on this graph. You can add another 40%. That's almost $100,000 total. That's a lot of money, folks, for an average salary for a teacher. And I know many are dedicated and all that good stuff. Give you an example. In New York City, I read an article once that I think there was over 200 teachers in the New York City school system that are so bad, that are such rotten teachers, that they put them all in several rooms every single day when school starts. It's basically like a study hall, and those 200-odd teachers just sit there and do nothing. They fool around on their phones, they read a book, they listen to music, because the union protects them from getting fired. But they're so bad, they won't let them teach even in New York City schools. But they still have to pay their salaries. And they still get their vacations. They still got all their benefits and their health insurance and their pension. But they sit there all day, every day. And they even collect unemployment in the summertime when the school is closed down. So what's my point of all this? The point is these programs are too huge. They're too expensive. They are driving, but Social Security as well. But the welfare is one of the main factors in driving the national debt of the country. Yes, military spending, Social Security, I get all that. They have to be reformed as well. But if Social Security isn't hurting people, Social Security isn't destroying families, Social Security isn't making our culture a non-two-parent household where kids are running wild and get into trouble and fill up juvenile halls and jails. They talk about the pipeline to prisons. My understanding from a number that I read once, the chances of a kid getting in trouble with the law and going to prison goes up 70% when they have a single mother head of household. It goes up 70% from the national average. And then we're going to factor in the fact that many of these are Hispanic and black young people. It's stuck in a school that 80% doesn't even make the minimum requirement testing scores. Yet the teacher salaries are still increased every year from their union. It's amazing to me. Something has to give. The Democrats will not allow school choice. Why? Because the National Teachers Union owns them. They do so much work for them politically, and they raise so much money for the Democrats, they're beholden to them. They say, well, the Republicans are beholden to the NRA, and, baloney. Baloney. The teachers' unions in this country are a scourge. If you can be such a bad teacher, you can't even teach a class, but yet they still have to pay your salary, there's something wrong there. But the major culprit is the welfare. Literacy rates in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s among black students was just as high in big cities as the white students. Look at it now. It's incredible. And not even going to factor in places like Planned Parenthood that put their clinics in heavy minority districts. Just stopping babies being born by the millions. Add all those things together, folks. All the things I just showed you and all the things I just explained. Why in the hell are minorities still voting for Democrats? Look at that. Unmarried women aged 35 and older in 1890 was about 6%. And in 2010, it was 25% for black women, and I'm sure it's up above 30% now, years later. Why are they doing this? What kind of hold do Democrats have on these people? It's about time they got off the Democrat plantation. And until next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.